Why do so many projects miss deadlines, go over budget, or fail to deliver what they promised? If you're a project manager, you've probably seen this happen too often. The problem isn't just poor planning. It's that conventional project management methods, like Gantt charts and task dependencies, don't account for one key factor: uncertainty. Most project managers assume their plans are solid until they're not. Delays pile up because of unforeseen risks, like resource constraints or task dependencies. This uncertainty can derail even the best planned projects. This is where Eliyahu Goldratt's critical chain project management comes in. Goldratt's method tackles the hidden risks of uncertainty and shows you how to deliver projects on time. The critical chain is the longest sequence of dependent tasks that determines your project's timeline. Unlike traditional methods, critical chain focuses on what really drives delays: resource constraints and task dependencies. In critical chain, we manage uncertainty by using buffers, time added to protect the project from unexpected delays. There are three types: project buffers, feeding buffers, and resource buffers. One of the most straightforward and popular buffer sizing techniques is Goldratt's cut and paste method. In this approach, you take the total critical chain duration, cut it in half, and use the second half as your project buffer. But how do you size these buffers effectively? Lawrence Leach, in his book Critical Chain Project Management, explains how. He offers three methods: 50% of the critical chain duration, SSQ, square root of the sum of the squares, and bias plus SSQ. Let's apply method 1. Imagine 3 tasks in the critical chain with durations of 10, 8, and 12 days. You have these to get 5, 4, and 6 days. The total critical chain duration is now 15 days. To protect this timeline, you add a project buffer of 7.5 days, 50% of the critical chain. In the second method, you calculate the uncertainty for each task. Let's say 2 days, 3 days, and 4 days. You square each value, sum them, and then take the square root. This gives you a project buffer of about 5.39 days. Finally, method 3 combines the SSQ calculation with a bias added to account for external uncertainties. For instance, if the SSQ buffer is 4.58 days, and we add a bias of 2 days, the total buffer becomes 6.58 days. Each buffer sizing method comes with its strengths and limitations. While the cut and paste method is simple, it may not capture the true risk in complex projects. Method 1, 50%, might overestimate or underestimate buffer size based on project risk. The SAQ method requires detailed data and accurate variance estimation, which can be challenging. While adding bias in method 3 helps manage unknowns, but it's subjective and can lead to over or underestimation. But simply adding buffers isn't enough. Leach emphasizes that you have to manage these buffers continuously. You track how much of the buffer has been consumed and act before it's too late. Let's see this in action. Adam, our project manager, is tracking a critical project. He sees that the buffer is being consumed faster than expected due to unexpected delays in resource availability. Another key issue that critical chain solves is multitasking. Project managers often assign resources to multiple tasks, thinking they're being efficient. But multitasking leads to delays, and Leach warns that it can silently kill your project's progress. Leach's solution is simple: stop multitasking and focus on completing one task at a time. This keeps the project flowing smoothly and prevents delays from stacking up. Goldratt also highlights another common problem: student syndrome. This is when people start tasks later than they should, thinking they have extra time. But this eats into your buffers and leaves no room for error. Adam addresses this by setting earlier internal deadlines and communicating the importance of starting tasks on time. By creating urgency early, his team avoids falling into the trap of student syndrome. Resource buffers are just as important as task buffers. They ensure that key people or materials are available when needed. Without them, a critical task could be delayed just because the right resources aren't ready. As the project comes to a close, Adam reviews the results. Buffers have been managed effectively, multitasking was minimized, and resources were available when needed. The project is delivered on time. By focusing on the critical chain, using buffers to protect against delays, and managing resources effectively, critical chain project management gives you the tools to deliver projects on time, even in the face of uncertainty. If you're tired of projects getting derailed by delays, resource constraints, and multitasking, it's time to give critical chain project management a try. Apply these principles, and you'll see real improvements in your project outcomes.